Welcome, DoorGrow hackers, to the DoorGrow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing your business and life, and you are open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow hacker. DoorGrow hackers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management businesses and their owners. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now, let's get into the show. And today, I have a very special guest. I am hanging out here with Don Ganguly. And Don is the CEO of HomeUnion. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm the president of HomeUnion and founder of Invest.
Okay. President of HomeUnion and the founder of INVESTimate. And Don, I want to welcome you to being here on the DoorGrow Show.
I'm glad to be here.
So Don, you have an interesting background. You have a lot of experience in entrepreneurism. I think people will be really interested to hear some tidbits from you today and some insights. And I'm excited to get it into your business and service. But let's start with you. Can you give us a little background on you and just some of your experience and what's kind of led you to where you are now in business?
Sure. I'm sort of a vocationally reformed engineer. This is my third company, and the last one we did was actually an outsourcing service company for mortgage banks and services. So we were actually helping originators during the big boom when people who had a pulse were getting a loan, and then when everything fell apart, we were helping the services service those loans and try to keep people in their houses. And we touched, I think, over $75 billion of servicing. That company ended up getting sold to Oracle through a banking software company. But it was sort of the progenitor to this whole HomeUnion INVESTimate thing that we founded, because we were able to see all these properties all over the country that had some pretty decent prices and a good rent-to-price ratio. So when we looked at that, we figured, there are all these homes that make good investments, and people that live on the coasts often don't get access to these assets. And so we looked at that and said, is there a way that we could provide access to rental properties the way people buy stocks and bonds? Mm-hmm. So if you look at the way rental properties are bought, it's very similar to how homes are bought. So people go to a listing site, they get a list of properties, they do some back of the envelope calculations, figure out the rent, go to the neighborhood, or figure out the neighborhood, call a realtor, and then bounce around and try to find the right property that they like. If you look an analog to that and say, hey, if you go to a wealth advisor and say, I've got, this much money to invest, what should I buy? The wealth advisor isn't going to say, okay, I got some tech stocks. Here's IBM, here's Cisco, here's Apple, here's Facebook. Which one of these do you think you want in your portfolio? And let's go through a list.
Right.
The question they ask you often is, okay, hey, what's your budget? What's your risk preference? What's your age and stage in life? Do you need cash? Don't you need cash? And then they put a portfolio together that's got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it all aligns to your financial goals. So we took that playbook and we brought it to this INVESTimate product that we built, which says, we can ask investors the same type of questions about their real estate investments, and then let the system go out and find the right assets and build them a portfolio or a set of assets that meet those financial criteria. So it was a non-trivial exercise, because to do that, we actually had to calibrate everything from a risk and reward standpoint, right? How risky is this house and versus that house type of thing. So anyway, that's how we came to this. So as an entrepreneur, you're always looking for a new solution to an existing problem, right? And often the existing stakeholders don't have the answer, so you got to think of something a little bit different. and that's how we got into this business.
Okay, great. So why don't you then give us a high level overview then of so these two brands, help us understand these two brands, how they're connected first, and what they are, just an overview.
Yep. No, I'm happy to. So if you look at HomeUnion used to be is still a retail platform where investors can come in and basically search for properties and invest. And the first incarnation of HomeUnion, we were actually serving as overall asset managers for these properties, and then farming out the actual work to property managers on the ground. And then last year we made the call that this was becoming this too big a business for us. We'd done over $200 million of transactions, and we didn't want to be in the property management business. So
yeah,
we ended up giving those properties out to the property managers that were managing it, pulled the platform out, not pulled it out, but productized it and provided it as a platform for property managers and realtors that are working with investors. So the product itself had been tested for 4.5 years, had done $200 million of transaction, was within 5% of forecast, and it was used by investors to buy properties all around the country. So it was highly exercised, but we just changed the business model from being an internet-only model that brought consumers to my front door to a product that would then serve people like property managers who are actually dealing with investors day to day, to give them a tool to engage with their investors. So that's kind of the connection between the two. The HomeUnion brand is an internal user of the investment product. So any leads that come in there are fed to our property management partners in various locations, because we're not in the business. So when we engage with that investor and they want to buy a property, then that property is managed by one of our partners. So both of them actually feed in to the advantage of the property manager, if you will.
Got it. Okay, so let's take our typical listeners. So we've got a property management business owner. They've got a small business. Maybe they've got 100 to 200 doors under management. They're wanting to grow their business. They're trying to deal with team changes and staffing and operations and trying to systemize things for the first time ever. And then we have these solutions available that they can use to leverage, to support and bring in investors. Where would they start with your services?
Yeah, so if I look at businesses such as yours and others, I mean, you're helping them trying to grow doors, right? How do you grow doors? You grow doors by finding more investors or having investors buy more doors, right? So right. A property manager is either at the bottom of the food chain, which is that when the investors already bought that property, then they put their hand up and compete with 4 other property managers and say, I'm the best guy in this market and you should come and put your property with me. Yeah. Or they can be more proactive and go up the food channel and up that funnel and have a conversation with the investor when the investor starts looking for that property, right? Be early in the solutions process. So what happens then is if you're at that point in the fulcrum, then you are actually able to participate in the property management process more naturally rather than doing it after the fact.
Sure. So, if you're part of this process earlier in the sales cycle, then they're going to have this relationship with you that's already set, and you're by default most likely going to get the management contract out of the deal.
Yeah, because you've been partnering with them ahead of time. So by the same token, let me just take the other side of the coin there. The good work that you're doing and others are doing is that saying, okay, listen, you need to market your business in some fashion. You need to get traffic on your website. You need to put content out. There are various sort of stakeholders that are helping property managers build better sites, websites. You have a business in that, and a better front door for people to come in. Now, when those people come in, then what do you have for them? And so that's where we come in, right? So if you think, I'll give you a simple analog, right? If you're a realtor, what do you need? You need an IDX feed to your local MLS, right? Otherwise, you can't show any properties. When somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to buy from you, if you have a website that doesn't show any properties or you don't have an ability to send that buyer homes to buy, then you can't participate. It's sort of it's minimum stakes for a realtor.
Basic tool, yeah.
Right? Now, if I'm quote unquote an investor realtor, let's say, and that's what a property manager ends up being. So if I'm catering to investors and I need an ability to serve up investment properties or properties that are more likely to be good investments, or put another way, I need to give you an investment lens through which to look at these properties so that you can then engage in buying a rental property through my system, right? So if I don't have that, then I'm back to the bottom of the food chain because I'm searching here, I'm searching there, I'm doing all this. So if a realtor needs a feed for homeowners, I think a property manager needs a feed of investment properties that it can present to its potential buyers. If the property manager wants to jump up that food chain, right? And that's what INVESTimate provides, right? So if you're a property manager in a particular market, and we are in 15 or 16 markets around the country, we have real-time connections to the local listing services. What we would do is we would white label INVESTimate to your website. So it would say ABC Property Manager with your logo and your color on the front. And when you use DoorGrow or another service to drive investors to your website, then they come in and they have a way to search for rental properties in your patch or around the country if you allow them to, because you still get a referral fee for that, and engage with you in that fashion, right? So that's one part of it. The second part is, if you look at the realtors, and I go back to the home buying because everyone sort of gets that business, right? So if you go to the home buying end of the business, what happens? The realtors are all over that deal when it rears its head, right? So when a home buyer says, I want to buy, you have a short window within which to grab that person, and about 20 realtors are all over it from leads from various places, and the name of the game is how quickly can I get that person. On the investment side, nobody wakes up and says, I just have to buy a rental property in the next 24 hours. Otherwise, I'm going to have a hissy fit of some kind. So that doesn't quite work that way. So when people make that decision saying, hey, maybe I should be in real estate, I know a lot of wealth's built that way, I should be out of the stock market, or I've already bought 2 properties, I think it's time for me to buy another one, I got some excess cash. What they need is a steady diet of stuff that fits their preferences and a nurturing. It's very different from the home buying. So the INVESTimate platform actually comes with a set of campaign management and a set of investor support services. So when you come onto INVESTimate and you're, let's say you're a customer of ABC Property Management. So you come in and you say, I'm Jason, you register, you start using the site, we call you and say, Jason, we're investor support with ABC Property Management. We're here to help you use the system and help you understand what's in here. So you get acclimatized with the system, you understand what it is. We get an idea of your preferences, and the system also captures your preferences. So now, you've told me you like sci-fi movies or rom-coms, and I now keep sending you sci-fi and rom-coms till one day you watch that movie, because that's how investors work. We drip feed them till they put their hand up and say, hey, that property is interesting. And now I got a buy box. Once I get that buy box, then I call ABC Property Manager and I say, hey, I've got Jason who's got X amount to invest. He's looking in Austin. This is sort of his buy box. This is sort of property he's looking for. Please help him out and do the local due diligence. So we serve that lead up at that point. So it's the website. It's a set of intelligent filters that connects to the local listing service. And it's a whole analytics lens that allows them to search like they would search for stocks and bonds. And then I can get more into the data side of it. It's much deeper than that. So answer your question, what does that local property manager do? He signs up for the service. There's a small monthly fee, and he private labels it, white labels it on his website, and he's off to the races. The way we make money, really, most of it is from when there's a successful transaction. And what we ask for them is to load whatever leads, customers they have into that proprietary database that always stays their own. And then these people, as they come in, it's a fish net to grab fish. And then we nurture those fish till they buy. So it's a long-term way to keep their brand in front of customers and leads and others. And I'll tell you something that a lot of the property managers we're working with are not only loading their customers, they're saying, hey, here's a whole bunch of people we touched in the last 5 years. We didn't do business with them, but we touched them in some fashion. I want those registered to me. And a lot of them wake up and are prospects of buying stuff. Well, because once they see the product, then they say, yeah, I'm interested. And I will use this to buy something. So that's what sort of we bring to the table. So what a realtor gets from a strict MLS feed for home buying, a property manager gets an MLS feed with a bunch of intelligent filters and big data for investment buying. That's what we do.
So I love the idea. So everybody listening knows or should know that their number one prospect is your existing customer. They
Right.
already know you, trust you, and like you. You're already probably managing a property for them. And so they're one of the most likely to do business with you again. And if you have opportunities of properties available and they're already investors, it would be a very easy thing or easier thing to get them into an additional property. They're
Right.
going to have a high level of trust with you. So if you have this easy pool of properties that they could see and view, and they're getting dripped and they're getting notified and they're kind of in your sort of funnel and sort of your system here, then they're eventually something is going to grab them and they're going to go, hey, this looks like a deal I could sink my teeth into. I'm going to go for this.
Yep.
Now, for the skeptics that are listening, right, you've got the property managers that also do real estate, and they've already got the MLS, and they're like, well, why don't I just put the MLS on and they can just look for any property? So let's really clarify the difference between just having the MLS and having the INVESTimate tool.
Great question. So the MLS or Zillow or Realtor.com or any of these sites are 100% geared towards you looking for schools, pools, stuff that gets you into a neighborhood to live in, right? So what we did is we created a big data platform where we have 110 million properties. We have the entire U.S. housing stock. We have 20 years of transactions. We have 200,000 neighborhoods. We have an initiative here with University of California where we collect over 9 million rentals all over the internet so we can put that into our model. And we do a couple of different things with it. We've processed, I think, over $200 billion of properties to build our model. And what we do with it is, first thing we've done is we've calibrated neighborhoods from A through D as a neighborhood investment rating. And think of these as bond ratings. So the D is not, we're not in D neighborhoods. So C is not necessarily saying it's a bad neighborhood. It just says it's a neighborhood that's a little bit more volatile. You can get in with a lower quantum of money. It's a higher yield property. That neighborhood probably isn't going to give you as much growth, but you can put in your portfolio depending on what all you're trying to buy. And a neighborhood has a higher quantum of investment, so it's a more expensive neighborhood. The yield is not going to be that great, and you are going to see a lot more growth. So the question is, should I buy Apple stock at $800 and buy 5 units of Apple stock, or should I buy something that's $50 and buy 100 units of it, right? Or should I do a little bit of both? So we've kind of given them a risk reward calibration so they can look at both of these things, right? Then we forecast, we have a model that estimates the rent. We have a rent valuation model. We have a cascade waterfall where we compare it to comps and a bunch of other things to say, here's a range of the rent. We then estimate the price and see if it's above or below what we model the price to be at. Based on that, we come up with a bid range on that property. And then we provide a ton of rich neighborhood information on the renter. If you go to our investment, you'll see, how much money do the renters make? What's the average income? How many can afford the rent? Where are the rents in this neighborhood? Am I an outlier rent? So once my renter goes, I'll never be able to fulfill it because I'm the only guy in that neighborhood where my renter is paying the highest among everybody. So there's a ton of good strategic data, and there's price trends and rent trends in that neighborhood. So when investors go in, it's the same thing as you look at a stock, right? What's my risk in the stock? What's the previous growth has been? What's my dividend play? What's it done historically? What is it expected to do? What other research can I get around it? It's that one place where all that information is encapsulated, right? So the potential rental property buyers are doing what today? They're going to a Zillow, finding a property, doing a back of the napkin, going to a rentometer, finding the rent, and then coming back, going to a realtor, looking at the neighborhood. They don't like it, go to another one. We put all of that into one page on the back of big data. Now, like in any model, is everything 100% accurate? No. Properties are highly individual, right? So you and I may be living next door to each other, and you've done a lot of great things in your property, and you may be a little bit different than mine. And how do we do that? The property manager solves that last mile problem. So the model, the data helps them create a buy box, a set of guardrails, sort of neighborhoods, the type of property. And then the property manager goes in and says, yes, the data is right on this one. The rent is exactly what we said. Or, you know what, this property is gutted on the inside and it's not going to work. So it's a combination of that site, of the platform, and the local property manager at the point of purchase. So the investor gets the best of both in terms of making that transaction. Now, why is that property manager the best partner? Because he or she has to manage that property afterwards.
Right.
So they're going to go in and say, oh yeah, you know, the rent's going to be $2,000, no problem. And the moment it closes, then they come back and they say the rent's $1,500. That's sort of the beginning of the end as far as you know, their whole credibility goes. So that all that big data is underlying the investment lens of the property. So just going into that a little bit more. When we look at the MLS, we poll the listing services every 30 minutes. So it's near real time. We apply over 50 to 60 different filters to pull stuff in. We exclude stuff. If there are comments there that we don't like, we exclude those things. Exclude D neighborhoods. So there's a set of filters that go in, then we append the rich data, then there's a queue where set of eyeballs do a quality check, and then it makes it into the platform. So it's a highly, what should I say, curated, investment-focused platform that's available for the property manager to, you know, showcase to his or her clients.
All right, that was a great explanation. So basically, what I'm hearing is this is like the MLS. It includes all the MLS stuff, but it's better. And it includes more tools, more resources geared specifically towards the investor, and they're able to make decisions. So this is maybe a random question, but I'm really curious about these different gradients or different sort of categorizations that you have of risk reward, and how are people making this decision, whether they want, you know, A's or D's?
So it really depends on you know, the risk profile, right? At the end of the day, if you go for a C property, like, you know, when do you buy a triple C bond? A triple C bond is a higher yield bond for sure, right? Because it's not an A bond. But when you buy a triple C bond, you also know that there could be defaults. There could be things that whack your returns. So you're getting that higher yield to compensate for the risk. When you buy a triple A bond, it's more deterministic. So in a higher end neighborhood, you know, you've got rents that are not quite as high in the ratio to the property price, but you've got renters that tend to be more stable, that have been there a longer period of time, and then homes tend to appreciate more. But it requires more money to get in. So it all depends on the investor's personal preferences. You know, are they looking for money now? Are they looking more to build a portfolio, and after 15 years, when it's all paid off, that's when they want to do it? Are they looking for growth, where they want to turn around and flip it in 5 years? You know, that's a whole different discussion. Then you go after more growth properties, and you need at least 5 years for real estate, right, before you cover all your transaction costs, 3+ years. So it just totally depends on the investor and their requirements. And they might buy some properties for cash flow, they might buy some for growth, and they might buy some that's in between. So we hear investors say, hey, I need cash flow, that's my number one determinant. Some other investor might say, I don't really need any money right now, but I want to build up a portfolio that'll grow and be safe. And others will say, hey, I need to cover my mortgage and maybe make a little bit of money. They're in the balance, in the middle mode. But I really need properties that are going to appreciate. I don't really care about that much cash flow, but I don't want to be out of pocket. So those decisions then drive the type of properties, neighborhoods, locations, cities they end up with, right?
Well, so in your platform, curious, like what do you see being the most popular for the investors that are typically using this with property managers in that categorization?
So it's, I would say that where people buy, I would say 40% is in what I call the B neighborhoods. 40% are in the C neighborhoods, which are the high yield neighborhoods, and 20% are in the A's. And A's are obviously more expensive, and you've got, you know, your buy pool shrinks when you get to the A neighborhood. So that's roughly what you see. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So now this, just like a question popped up in my mind is, would this then this would obviously work then for non-property managers that are using it. Maybe their intention is just to use and look at this for their own stuff, or to look for flips or turnkeys, or, different types of doing different types of deals than just some sort of long-term, management situation.
Yeah, it would work for realtors, right? I mean, any realtor that's dealing with investors, they are also using the platform. We've got a number of realtors that have signed up that, the realtor thesis is a little bit different, right? I sell you a home, and you're not going to buy another home for me from the next 7 to 10 years, typically, right? I'm not going to come every year and sell you a home. But once I sell you a home, if I'm smart, I know that you could be a potential investor. And so I'll say, hey, if you're looking for rental properties now, Jason, here's a site that gives you local and national rental properties, and I'll help you out with it. So for the realtor, it becomes a cross-sell, right? For a property manager, it's an upsell. It's one more property, but or a new guy coming in. But for a realtor, it's a cross-sell to a customer or lead that have already spent the money getting that customer or the lead, right? So now you're saying, what else can I get out of that wallet? And this product does that. In terms of flippers, we're not really geared towards flippers. We're not, showing the big distressed assets out there that you can find and rehab, because the big thing for the flipper is a rehab number, right? How much do I have to put into this property to actually make money on it? So I'm buying it 40,000 on the market. I put 20,000 in it, so I'm already in 20,000. And I make another 20 grand because I can sell it at market. And that requires on the ground running around and understanding, what those rehab costs are. And so they can use the system to identify stuff, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, I think these are people driving around neighborhoods or trying to find, that distressed asset that needs that. And so there's not an inordinate focus on people like that on our platform, just because, our partners are not really chasing those type of deals, and we need a partner on the ground on this for solving that last mile. But any investor could come in and use it for sure.
So property managers that are already working with you and using your system and doing this, what sort of changes or feedback or results have you been hearing from them? Like what are they noticing, and how has this changed their business?
So one thing I think a lot of them are noticing is that a lot of their customers or the leads are waking up, and they are engaged in, looking at properties. There are 2-3 things we are saying. One is they're making offers on new properties. In some cases, they're selling, properties to the system. So which helps the property manager get a listing, right? Because they get that listing, and if the investor is selling the property, they can get to keep the property management because it's a rental property that they're selling it as, and they're not kicking out the renter, going to a homeowner. So that's I think a lot of people like that, because there's no erosion of or churn of their portfolio from that perspective, right?
So what's happening is, even though properties are selling, which would normally be churn in a property management business, they're able to retain the management contracts.
That's right.
And keep the tenants in place.
That's correct.
Love it.
For those, and you should qualify it, for those investors that are willing to do that. There are some that will want to sell it in the open market for whatever reason. But I think if we can increase the velocity of this, and as more and more people get connected to the INVESTimate network, when you push something into that, it goes across, gets eyeballs everywhere, and it may move a lot faster, because the investor on the other end will want a rental property that's already rented with a track record of history from that property manager, right? Because the property manager will be able to give us, what's been happening for the last 2 or 3 years in performance on this property. And that becomes a lot more attractive than to buy a new one and then do all this stuff to it.
So this is a proven property. They're able to see that it's rent rolled effectively, and this extends the reach then of visibility far beyond what the local MLS would provide, because investors maybe out of state and all over the and beyond are able to see this opportunity.
Right. And realtors are not that interested in selling rental properties to investors. They are, on the MLS and stuff like that, that get the least amount of attention from realtors. So putting it on this platform puts many more eyeballs. We got 120,000 users on the platform today. So
Wait, how many?
120,000.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So if remember, we've been at this 4.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then as we are signing up these property managers, their pools are going into this. So that user count is increasing dramatically month over month. So out of that, not everyone's a buyer today, but there's a big enough sample size there that people would look at it and say, this is something I want to buy. And the more product you put in there, the better you are.
And so say they sign up, and how easy is this to get connected into the website? Is it like just some JavaScript code snippet that would be added to a page, or just some HTML, like an iframe, or what's
No,
sort of this?
Yeah, good question. It's not an iframe. It's a straight it's a hyperlink link with their subdomain that gets added to their website, and we can put it wherever. And we've got some, and we've got, for example, the PMI franchise is rolling this out to a lot of their franchisees, and we spoke to their website company and made sure that the logos and the colors and all that was consistent and how they wanted the brand to look for all PMI franchises, and put it out there so they have the same experience. So stuff like that. But it's not a massive task. It's a quick task of getting it up and running. I mean, they do need someone familiar with website development at their end to put it up. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, and then I would imagine besides that, they're able to feed in maybe their list of clientele, or how do they kind of get clients using or into this system?
So they send us a file of their clients and their leads, and we separate the two, and that gets loaded and tagged to them in their, in the CRM for good. So anytime they do anything, they're forever tagged to them. And then we look at the clients one way, we look at the leads one way, and they get a mail from Jason at ABC Property Management saying, hey, we just implemented this new tool, come check it out. Here's all that it's got, and a series of mails inviting them to come check out the tool, what's in it once, and then we engage with them as investor support for Jason's property management company, help them utilize the tool. It's all branded to Jason. It's not branded to anything else. It's all branded to Jason. The back-end calls are made as investor support to help them use this system. That's all Jason. And then they start receiving some weekly properties that are hot in the particular market. And if they put their hand up, then we answer questions and take the sales cycle from there.
Great. And so, and the bottom line, everybody listening, the business owners are all thinking is this makes me money, right? Is the bottom line. So they're getting the real estate deals, they're getting commissions on the real estate deals. They're and anything else that I'm missing?
Oh, well, they get a door, right? And there's
they get the property management contracts.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And let's say, for example, we have property managers in California now, right? So a California property manager's customer may want to buy in Austin. The Austin person then can get a referral from the California buyer because the California buyer is not finding something at the price range they want in California. So one thing we always ask our customers is, do you want to show only your market, or do you want to show all markets? And there's pros and cons to it, right? If you only show your market, then that investor can only buy in your market, and that's all they get, and you always get the door. The con is if they ever decide to buy somewhere else, they're not going to buy through you because you didn't show that. Or you show all markets, and then if they do decide to buy somewhere else, then you get a referral fee from that, and by the same token, you get inbound traffic from somewhere else. Nice. So that's the idea of that. But we give people that option because we can show one or two or all. And most people tend to keep it fully open, but we have had people that said, I don't want to show anything other than my city. So which we're okay with that as well. I mean, it's the business owner's choice.
So this has the other potential benefit of really kind of setting up a referral network for getting some deals.
Yeah. And so we've had situations where a property manager has just got a door, right? Because somebody's buying a property and then we get that person, and then they say, I need a property manager. And so then we give them the door. And sometimes they get the whole thing. But if an investor wants to buy in their market, then they become the buyer's agent. Obviously, they give up a referral fee back into the system so others can get paid. And they get and then they get the door and that commission. And by the same token, when they refer someone, they get a piece from that person, from the door and the commission. So it works both ways.
All right. So Don, this sounds fantastic. Is there any other common questions or things that you think people listening might be curious about related to this? And then how can they find out more?
So I think one thing we set expectations on is this is a way to build a long-term relationship with your investors, right? It's not like you've got, let's say you've got 400 doors and 150 investors. Now the investors get exposed to it. It's not that, okay, in 60 days, they all come in and say, great, now that you've given me this, here are 10 properties I'm going to buy. They will buy over time. But what's important is they are now much more connected with your brand. And you'll start seeing deals happening from these investors when they decide to buy. So we can't force them to buy, but we give them a reason to buy and we give them a product to buy. And so that's the one thing. The second thing is that we do need the property management person trained on the system. So we have a training program and all of that. So when we transfer that investor at the right time, they need to be able to use the system to find the next property and the next one if this one doesn't work out. Because ultimately they're the ones fulfilling that. So a property management company sometimes has not been in the sales process, right? So they've always been at the other end of the food chain. So they got to think that if they want to climb the food chain, they do need some competence inside to be able to go get that property and close the property for the investor. Although we're taking a lot of the analytical burden away by systems giving them all of that. So they get a very clear buy box, but they still need to fulfill that buy box.
Great. So let's wrap this up. So how would people find out more about your INVESTimate product, and how would they get maybe demo this and learn more about the business, and how would they get started?
Yeah, so they would go to INVESTimateROI.com. So in there is a little video that talks about the product and an explanation of what it does for property managers and realtors, and an ability to set up an appointment for a demo. The best thing to do is always look at a demo. So if they go there and they schedule a time, we'll just like we're doing here, we'll get them on a online webinar, and we'll take them through the product and explain what it does and see if it's a fit for their business. So it's simple enough. Yeah.
Fantastic. Don, this has been really interesting, really insightful. I think a lot of people's wheels are turning as they listen to this. And I think that you'll probably be getting some demos of people checking it out. So it sounds exciting.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for being on the DoorGrow Show.
Glad to be here.
All right. So you can check that out at INVESTimateROI.com is what he was saying. And so I appreciate Don being on the show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors and make a difference, then make sure you check us out at DoorGrow.com. And if you want to join the most awesome community of property management entrepreneurs on the planet, we are hanging out inside the DoorGrow Club. It is a free Facebook group. You can go to DoorGrowClub.com. Make sure you join the group, and we will see you next time on the DoorGrow Show. Until then, to our mutual growth. Bye, everyone.